Tonight, we are thrilled to bring to you an unforgettable gathering around the theme Design for Happy, the art of creating joyful spaces. This isn't just another event, it's a celebration of design that goes around aesthetics to touch lives, spark happiness, and bring people together in truly meaningful ways. Why design for happy? Because in a world moving at the speed of light, our spaces are what grounds us, inspires us, and yes, fills us with joy. When we design with happiness in mind, we're not just shaping buildings and rooms, we're crafting experiences that uplift, energize, and connect us to each other. And let's be real, without joy, coffee wouldn't be enough to keep us going. Our lineup for tonight is truly spectacular. We'll kick things off with an inspiring fireside chat, a powerful panel discussion, our journey as Wirenet, and a keynote speech. Together, we'll explore how every element, from urban design to corporate spaces, can be infused with joy, purpose, and soul. We would like to extend our gratitude to our wonderful sponsors, our annual prime sponsor, Human Scale, and our annual event sponsors, Detail, Adrian's, How We Work, and Merino, without whom this event would not have been possible. So get ready to be inspired, to connect, maybe just dance a little, and leave tonight with a heart filled with mind buzzing with possibilities. Let's design, let's dream, and let's celebrate and create happiness. Once again, welcome to an unforgettable night at Wirenet World 2024. I now invite our fireside speakers to come on stage for the next piece. In a world focused on sustainability and well-being, today's fireside chat on topic, the power of joyful, sustainable art and design, will explore how art and architecture can play pivotal roles in designing spaces that inspire happiness and harmony. This session will bring together an art curator with a passion for joyful and sustainably sourced art and an architect who transforms spaces by integrating these values. Let me introduce the firebrand speakers for this session. Chandra Jain. Chandra is the honorary president of Kadambari, a non-profit organization promoting Indian arts and crafts. She is an executive committee member for the Crafts Council of Karnataka and the founder of Kim Cab. Chandra's designs are deeply inspired by natural world, reflecting her belief that creativity thrives when we connect with nature. And with her is joining us Dr. Christine Bruckner, an architect. She is an architect actively implementing best practices, sustainability, and wellness in design. As a director at M. Moser Associates based out of Hong Kong, she brings her experience with urban integration, revitalization, integrative sustainability, and wellness design solution initiatives. Please join your hands together and welcome Chandra and Christine.
Are these on? I think they're on.
Thank you. Thank you, Abha, for that wonderful, inspiring beginning to this evening. And as somebody said, that where's the fire? So I replied that, I hope that Christine and I would be able to create enough fire here and all of you will join in. So here we go. Thank you. Thank you very much for asking me to be here. It really is my honor to be here, to be with people who actually create spaces. Because for me, as a person, where coming from the background that I come from, Vishwakarma, which is the one who creates, is aligned with anybody who creates. And as all of you would know, that we have a Vishwakarma Puja, because every creator is connected with that creator who's created this world. So with that kind of power in your hands, in this global world, when people are creating, all of you, creating a space within the space, it is really an honor to be here and share some thoughts. So let's start. Christine, I would first just ask a very simple question and share with you that when we say design for happiness, for me, design is happiness. So, but probably we need to look at what is happiness. How do we decide what is happiness? The quest for happiness has been there always, from Buddha to a person who's coping with life, but everybody is looking for joy. So, what are your thoughts on how would you define happiness and then take it to design, really?
Thanks, Chandra. Actually, it's interesting when you ask that question. When I was a young girl, and my family comes from architects and planners, my parents said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to really like to design places that make people happy," like as a very small child. And my parents nodded, and then my mother said, "That's interesting. Do you know what makes people happy? Do you know what makes everybody happy?" And I thought, yes. And then I thought about it, and I thought, we're all different. We're all unique. And so we worked on it. We workshopped in a gentle way at a young age. And the definition I came up with was, as an architect, it's the privilege to create places within which people can meet and exceed their potential. So this is embedded happiness in purpose, meaning, and individuality, and culture, and so many different things. So happiness expanded into potential. But for me, yes, what I find, and I love that you started with the divine, because we all have such a strong divine connection. And when our soul is happy, when we are resonating with joy, with humans, with connection to nature, to purpose, to love, to people, we're just able to live our best lives. And if we want to measure that, we can measure our nervous systems, we can measure our blood pressure, we can measure our mental waves, look for the coherence, and make sure we're in our parasympathetic nervous system, within which we get into flow, and we find most people get into their most creative. And when you're happy in creating, you're also creating things that are making others happy. So it's a long answer.
Yeah, very true. And I think this brings us back to the same thing that, whenever we are creating, I think in a way, we are always drawing our inspiration from nature.
Yes.
Because in nature, if we really look around, there is actually no disharmony. Mm-hmm. Whichever way a tree is, it still looks beautiful. Whichever way a pebble is lying around, and there is design. There's design in everything. The moment you look out, there may be a design in what I'm wearing, but there's design just all around. And without design, there is a design, a purpose in the very world that we exist in. So when the nature comes, and I think that's what we're trying to do all the time, because whether it's a workplace or it's a home, you go into that space, and you're spending your life, either your working life or your restful time, either in a home or in the office, workspace. If you don't get joy there, then it's like your life is going without really giving you what you're living for. Of course, it's a question of what is happiness, what is pleasure, what is what. And happiness is a deeper thing. Things can give you pleasure, but happiness comes from within. Yes. So when you look at these flowers lying there, the inspiration keeps coming, and you'll be surprised to know that those are the parijata flowers, also known as coral jasmine. And when they are boiled, when we process, we are able to get this color.
It's gorgeous.
So, I'm making this point only to say that the closer we are to nature, we are at this point of time in the world where we are realizing that how much harm we have done. And with all of you, creating spaces, creating living spaces, working spaces, it's become so much more important to create things which are sustainable, which sustain life, which sustain this world, and which sustain the very existence of human beings.
Absolutely, Chandra. Sustaining humanity. And when you pause and enjoy that natural element and take time with children, with each other, to find natural patterns, there are laws, whether you call them divine laws or just the elements that are within nature. And if you take those flowers and go deeper and deeper and deeper, you continue to find the order of beauty. And as you step away from it, if we can work within those same ecomimesis, if we can work with that biophilic attention to detail, we can be mesmerized. And we can find so many patterns that are natural. And if we can also use those natural materials, then in a considerate and responsible way, then we're actually bringing that opportunity wherever we've done it. So bringing it into people's homes, into their offices. And we as humans have an automatic response to natural things, because for so much of our lives, we were outside. We were in survival and we were in harmony. In fact, I would say we were one with nature. We are nature. And now we spend 95% of our time indoors. And so much of the work we're doing is about how to bring nature inside.
Absolutely. So we are constantly actually trying to bring outside into our homes or workspaces to have this sense of connectivity and sense of fulfillment. Well, this, I'm so inspired by so many architects earlier and even now who are working so beautifully with this kind of concept. Of course, I really love the work of Jeffrey Bawa, because I felt that the way he connected with nature and his buildings sort of really opened out, and there was just no barriers in between. So, or even in India, when I see, or even the space which has been created by 100 Hands where we are sitting, there is an openness. There is like the elements. In India, of course, we talk about the 5 elements, but that's what the world is constituted of. Mm-hmm. So if you get light, you get air, you get that sense of all those things which make this world come into a building, come into a space, it really becomes a small little universe represented in there. So in that context, I'd like to ask you a question as an architect. How do you feel when the construction starts getting focused more from the point of view of just utility?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see where you're going. And I see that we have a new slide up, so I'll just respond to it and to your question. So these are some items that are in our current office that, and a couple of them, including many that aren't on here, we worked with some of the artisans that are in your colleague network. And it was so meaningful to all of our members and our colleagues to know that they had handmade special items that were local as a way of belonging. And that's a very gentle and straightforward way to add that in. But I think What's even more interesting is when you start to do it through the design. And so we start to say, how do you understand space? How does the space work with light? In fact, does the light form the space? Is that in fact not, or is it art? The way that the shadows play, the way the materials are layered, the description you just had of layering inside to outside. So I spent quite a lot of time in Japan studying that, but you can see it in all in indigenous architecture and sensitive spaces. The definition of inside-outside, of you, me, it's blurred, and it's very much more human and welcoming. And if we can continue to do that through the way that we detail full spaces, definitions, materials, this is how we can manage it. And everything has to meet its use. It has to be usable. But there are so many ways to do that, which are heart-started.
And that is where, the challenge for creativity is. Because if it was really like a stamp or like a cookie cutter kind of a thing, that you look at a space and you say, look, this is required, and you sort of come with that kind of set notion, then you're really not adding to this universe by complementing what already exists, and also not sustaining and giving more energy to the lives that will cohabit that space.
Absolutely. And here you have a beautiful example.
Yeah, in fact, I'm very proud of being able to show this because, I've always believed that if you really look at, after all, architecture has always been there because there has been a need for human beings to have shelter. That was the first thing that probably happened, that they started from the cave to then this kind of, very low slung houses, and then it just kept on changing over time. So when you look at Iran, you look at Japan, you look at, you closer home in India, you look at Kerala or you look at Himachal Pradesh, totally different terrains. And they integrated the local materials and the climate and everything, and there was a sense of that connection remained. So I've been wondering how this is going to happen, and talking about it. So this particular project, which has been done by Kanvinde and Roy Chaudhary, so they have done this Bhilai project. And Bhilai is in a state called Jharkhand, where the tribal communities, they work with, they do this art, the Gond tribe, as it's called. So they looked at that and they decided, because Bhilai is, all of us associate with a steel plant. So the IIT Bhilai that came up, they used the local artisans, their imagery, which is laden with symbolic meaning, brought in their own technicians to also work along with them so that they could work, and created these amazing huge screens by doing, and the dots that you see, those are actually perforations. Because if you see a Gond painting on paper, then it's like little dots there or little separation of color. They transferred that whole image onto that. And I really felt that that really was such a beautiful way of integrating the local culture, local communities, and local terrain. They even retained some of the elements that already existed, because there was a little temple that was there under a tree that was retained as it was. It just added that little accent. So I think that, the sensitive architects are already doing that very beautifully. This is
And it's
just
serving you as well. It's serving to give you shade and shadow and interest as you go through.
So it's not like you separate art from architecture. Architecture is actually a culmination of all the arts, as theater is culmination of all the performing arts in a way. So art has to be integrated in it. I do understand that with the new ways that are happening, when you have to bring the outside in, then you work in trying to add on art to the places, as you so beautifully do. So how do you do that with the local ethos?
Yeah, well, maybe, oh, this isn't the next slide. I think it was a different slide, but okay. It was an image of a space, but it's okay, we can use this if you want. The next one. The next one, isn't there a visual? Oh, okay. So, well, we had a photograph to show you that is a room made in it's two spaces. One was in a technical campus, and it shares lots of examples of how we were using technological. So maybe they'll look and find those images. This is one example where you can see, and we've done the same thing in many different ways, but this is a very traditional way to do ceramic work and to build up spaces. Oh, and now we're jumping. You're getting a wonderful preview and a dance. But in this space, which is a very small part of an entire campus, you can start to see, again, the inside-outside space. You can see aspects of local culture. You can see the most important thing, which is the green walls and the greenery and nature, the warm tones, natural fans for ventilation. That means that you can already feel that the wind is moving, that indoor-outdoor is happening, that energy is flowing, and that when you're in that space, you're going to find an ability to talk to your colleagues, get into your soul, think about what it is that you want to work on. So these are the kinds of spaces that you can get away from your desk, do certain types of work, and then go back. And it's really important because they're for connecting within, connecting to other, connecting to nature, and honestly to connecting to those elements of air and light and spirit. And this is a way of thinking and making sure that we make this available for all people in all types of spaces at all scales, whether we're doing schools or hospitals, workplace or home. This is where we thrive, and you can measure that shared appreciation and joy by the impacts that we've experienced, the feedback we get, and there's a measurable way to share, and that can be important. I know some of us were talking about, how do clients know that that has a value? How do you prove all of that values? The proof is almost not necessary when everybody experiences something so deeply together. And yet we can prove it. We can take the physical measurements of all the elements of our body, but we can also share in how people use the space. Is there a sense of joy? Do people laugh? And when I ask people, what do you feel when you walk into a space? What does a space have to have that will make you feel like you are welcome and you belong there? And I get lots of different answers. I'd love to ask every single one of you. I'm going to tell you what my mom answered, but first I'd like to ask Chandra. When you walk into a space, how do you know that you belong in that space, that it's good for you?
Well, there has to be a certain warmth. First of all, I think
Hold your mic up.
yeah, certain warmth. It's really the warmth of a place which welcomes you even before you meet people. You enter a space, and if it's just very clinical, very cold, everything, there are just no textures, there's just nothing to stimulate your senses and your feelings, then you feel that, it's like it doesn't even register actually. That's what happens, because you sometimes go to many spaces and you go and you come. But if you notice something somewhere, that means that you're connecting with it. Yeah?
Beautiful. And the answer, lots of different answers I've got, different ways to reduce anxiety, to enhance joy. My mother's answer was, if she sees people that look happy in the space, communicating, being comfortable, she knows she can find her way to be comfortable and talk with them. So just the subtleties of being close to the most simple ways of understanding how architecture creates places for people to live their best lives. And this is our office, actually, here in Bangalore. We carefully chose this site to feel that you are surrounded by nature, so that we designed it where we placed the desks, how we designed all the elements, through a lot of research, lighting studies, acoustic studies, so that the windows can be open 95% of the time. There's 1 hour when you have direct, intolerable glare, we close it. But all of the rest of the time, you have this nature-imbued light within a very flexible environment. And we invite you to join us, but it's a beautiful space. Yeah.
Would you say that when you work with the natural elements or things which are handmade, it brings a different kind of energy to the place, or it's the same when you work with things which are like mass-produced?
I think we know the answer to that one, Chandra. I think we all know that something made with love and by hand just has such a embedded joy, love, and meaning. And if we can bring that into our spaces, it will be great. Am I hearing that we need to finish up?
And
Yes,
so,
okay.
but I also realize that when we work with things which are made with hand, you're not just sustaining and taking care of that space, but you're also connecting and sustaining a larger community, which is creating those beautiful objects.
Yes.
So I think, this way you're connecting so much more, especially in this day and age of machines and everything being so, what should I say? I don't want to use the word artificial, but, only looking at it from maybe it's easier to maintain. I think somewhere we take away the warmth that exists. It's important that things are such that take away the burden of maintenance, but I think it is possible to do all that and retain the beautiful touch and warmth of life in all the spaces that are created by all of you.
Thank you so much, Chandra, and I think we'll close there and just, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that insightful chat on how art is an essential element of enhancing character, aesthetics, and human experience in the functional environment. I want you guys to wait. I'd like to invite Renuka, Rajagopal, and Laila, Khalil to kind of felicitate our guests, please. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Chandra and Christine.